scrambling at this point, because why the fuck would we be bringing up this?
Welcome back. Moments ago.
Why are we bringing up Obama if the Obama deal with Iran was like an objective win and the good thing? Why even bring it up? Don't even say it.
President Trump hosting an update on Iran, writing, quote, "The deal with Iran will either be a great and meaningful one or there will be no deal. It will be the exact opposite of the JCPOA disaster negotiated by the failed Obama administration, which was a direct and open path to nuclear."
Which is like such an easy thing for anybody like to say no, it wasn't.
Weapons, a nuclear weapon for Iran. No, I don't do deals like that. Right now, the administration is still working on final details.
We've swapped from the Obama deal was not strong enough to the Obama deal funded the Iranian regime to the Obama deal wanted nuclear weapons in Iran.
Of a deal with Iran, which would reportedly force Iran to give up all nuclear stockpiles and reopen the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for some sanctions relief and return of frozen assets. Retired Navy SEAL Mike Sorelli joins us now. Mike, thanks for being here. What's your reaction? We just heard.
There's the next clip is going to be another soldier. There's a retired Navy SEAL, so he's a piece of shit garbage.
President Trump, we know this deal is moving forward. They say it's probably, getting closer and closer to finalization, but it depends on whether Iran acts.
There's a lot to unpack here. First, you could put me in the camp that would have chosen a second round of escalatory and very harsh strikes because we know the history. They've never negotiated in good faith, and they've never complied with any agreement. But if President Trump feels that we've damaged them so badly, we've weakened the proxy networks, we know we're strangling them economically, he feels he has long-term leverage. But we are in phase one. What is the structure of the deal? Phase two is where peace deals go to die, because that's where they operationally and politically bleed out, because there's so many conditions here. What I would say ultimately matters, if we do get a peace deal, is the enforcement mechanism, the consequences, and one very large clock, a countdown clock, that if they don't meet the conditions in the timeline that we set, you hit them hard. So leave the blockade in place. I wouldn't release the sanctions or unfreeze assets because we want to keep that pressure. And then ultimately, we know the uranium has to be turned over. They have to dismantle any proliferation or enrichment facilities. But if they violate any of those conditions, that's why we need the military and the blockade in place, so you hit them hard. And right now, call me cautiously optimistic that they will comply with any deal.
No dust, no dollars. Does that work?
No, it doesn't.
And that is
it is never once worked.
It requires the IAEA on the ground, that the unprecedented access to whatever material they have or enrichment capabilities. And then somebody has to take either a transfer of custody so that we get it out of Iran and we know that they, in fact, cannot get to weapons-grade nuclear materials or any nuclear capability whatsoever.
Mike, we'll see where it goes. It is obviously Memorial Day. Yes. And I have said you have one of the best catchphrases or sayings for Memorial Day, which is never forget, forever honor. It's perfectly the message that you need on a day like this. And you also have one of the most remarkable series. Season 2 is about to start, The Unsung of Arlington, where you walk through Arlington National Cemetery. You tell the story of heroes going back for decades to all of the wars.
Where Trump has previously said that people who have died in Arlington are pathetic losers. Never, literally, he just does this shit on the daily.
Message today on Memorial Day.
So, I think I've evolved on Memorial Day. The further I get away from the war and the men I lost that were dear to me, it evolves. It is a moment of reverence, deep respect and gratitude that these men and women lay down their lives for us. But we do want people to be with their families, have fun on Memorial Day. It shouldn't be this cloud hanging over us, because there's pride and there's hope in it, that these men and women believe so fiercely in America. And with The Unsung of Arlington, we cover stories from the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, Vietnam, World War II.
Vietnam, the classically good American war where we did nothing wrong. Guys, we did nothing wrong in Vietnam. Not a single thing was done incorrectly during Vietnam War.
And there's a common theme amongst these very different generations: selfless valor and fierce belief in America and sacrifice. And that should be a prideful moment, a moment of hope for us Americans, that people are willing to give their lives for their belief in this nation, in the people in it, and what we can become. So Memorial Day is one of reverence. But
fuck Memorial Day. I'm sorry, fuck Memorial Day. Every time we have an elected official in office who is in the military or ex-military, they end up like fucking over the country.
But it's also one of hope and faith. And I want Americans to know that. I mean, you look at these young Americans, these 5-year-olds, these 8-year-olds, that's
What about the men and women who have died in the Iranian conflict that didn't need to be started, sir?
the future generation that's going to pick up the torch. And that brings me hope.
That is a great message.
Like he said yesterday during that Jubilee video, yeah, America literally fucked over themselves so badly economically and on the global standing by forcing wars constantly that China didn't do. And look at where China's doing way better than the US. China's an insane country. I don't know which I think right now, as things stand, I would rather have the US on top than China still, but
We should live our lives worthy of their sacrifice.
it's a
Thanks,
very
Charlie. Thank you for
close
your
margin
service,
at
and
this
thanks for being
point.
here.
Thanks, Griff.
Be sure to like.
Now let's see like a rational human being.
A drone hit a U.S. military post in Kuwait, killing 6 service members and wounding more than 20 others. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the drone squirted through the defenses of the fortified base. Well, now we're hearing from more survivors who are sharing a very different story with our Jonah Kaplan. Jonah, good morning.
Good morning, Nora. Last month we reported on how a key U.S. command post in Kuwait was left unprotected, despite intelligence showing it was a potential target for an Iranian drone. Now more soldiers who survived are speaking out, telling us the Army did not properly plan for possible casualties. The consequences were deadly.
Yep.
Why are you coming forward?
This was a
The Pete Hegseth and the current administration doesn't give a fuck about these guys. They could care less how many U.S. military service members die.
The only way you learn from your failures is you talk about it.
Army Major Stephen Ramsbottom was at his desk at this U.S. tactical post
I guarantee he's going to get a demotion or have a much harder time in the military after this.
in Kuwait when an Iranian drone crashed through his makeshift workspace.
It went black, and I got knocked to the ground.
With a piece of shrapnel lodged in the back of his head, Ramsbottom says he began pulling his fellow soldiers from the rubble.
I wanted to see like a line of ambulances coming towards us or something, and there wasn't that. It was like, oh man, we're on our own.
2 other soldiers told CBS News they asked for more medical support weeks before, but Army leadership ignored the request. The strike killed 6 U.S.
They want U.S. soldiers to die, by the way.
soldiers, all
Declan Cody. Sorry. Actually went to school. That was a gross sneeze with a friend of mine. And so did, and like, what the fuck are we doing? We're meeting these people. All of these people didn't deserve to die at all. And the Trump administration and Pete Hegseth wanted them to die to an Iranian strike to justify more strikes on Iran.
from the Iowa-based 103rd Sustainment Command. Ramsbottom says one of them, Master Sergeant Nicole Amer, could have survived her wounds had there been a doctor, a fixed aid station, or more than one ambulance at the post.
She fought the whole way, and she was trying to stay alive.
You think that had there been an ambulance, adequate medical attention, she'd still be alive?
I think she could have been saved.
She was like my yin and yang.
Master Sergeant Anne-Marie Carrier was right next to Amer when the drone hit.
I instantly started screaming her name.
Soldiers commandeered vans and scrambled to find the nearest Kuwaiti hospital. Carrier says her best friend was still...
Soldiers are being requested, or soldiers getting themselves military medical assistance. When any other station in the, any other station in the Middle East has more than enough resources for military medical aid. The reason, and I truly do believe this, part of the reason of why this was so not supported by the military was because they wanted to justify more strikes. The U.S. has done that before. They've sent their own military service members into the line of fire to justify attacking more people.
Still breathing as they set out for help. Shortly after arriving at the hospital, Amer died.
Was the Army prepared for a mass casualty event like this?
No, we didn't have any training for that.
The attack was the deadliest against U.S. troops since 2021. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said this the day after.
It happened to hit a tactical operations center that was fortified, but these are powerful weapons.
But Ramsbottom is one of 8 surviving soldiers who told CBS News something different.
But we had no overhead protection. We had a tin roof. That was all we had.
Multiple sources told CBS News Army intelligence warned as early as January that Iran would attack the post. A career soldier, Ramsbottom said he raised concerns over safety.
We were told to don't worry about protection, and we brought it up with our senior leadership.
You feel let down?
Highly let down. And It's saddening, disheartening.
Carrier escorted her friend's remains back home.
We always laughed. I miss those laughs.
And in late March, Aymer was laid to rest.
And it's 100% Trump's fault. And Pete Hegseth. It's 1,000% their fault that these young Americans are dead. Are you playing NASCAR today? No.
How should her family take what you're saying?
I feel terrible for, the pain they must be going through, but it's a lessons learned. There could be other units in this very similar situation in the future, and if they plan properly, they can save more.
They know. These service members know for a fact they were put into the line of fire to justify more attacks. They can't say it, though.
Lives and
Or they're choosing not to say it. At least one of them understands that that's the reasoning why there was no additional security measures put in there. And CBS won't interview those ones.
In a statement to CBS News, a Pentagon spokesperson wrote, prior to and during Operation Epic Fury, U.S. military leaders took extraordinary steps to protect our troops. He said...
And it sucks because the Pentagon used to be like the one reliable source out of the U.S. government. And now, it's just not.
No plan is ever perfect, but accusations suggesting blatant disregard for the safety of our forces are unfounded and inaccurate, and added an investigation into the attack is ongoing. Of course, those soldiers are going to be following that investigation, and we are going to be following that investigation.
The investigation is going to come up. The U.S. tried everything it could.
But you have to pay attention to it once they raised it, to say that it's unfounded and inaccurate. They're saying what they believe to be true.
And they were there.
And they were there.
It's hard
exactly,
not to believe someone who was there.
You can't ignore what they're saying.
And these are many soldiers coming forward. And we spoke with 8. Of course, there were 30 of them who were injured, in addition to the 6 service
Spoke to 8 of them, only showed 2.
That were killed, and then how many other people were just there on post. And again, this is not about necessarily attacking the administration, but making sure, how do we move...
This is not about attacking the administration.
Forward. We can
You guys are fucking cowards. Every single one of you.
Combat at any moment. We don't know about the ceasefire.
Yeah.
So are we ready for an Iranian retaliation?
Do you find it unusual that they're speaking up?
I think so, but I think it's also part of their recuperation. It's part of their healing process. They may find it cathartic.
Well, you and the investigative team.
They might find it cathartic. Dude! They don't want other people to die! Oh my god. This is so fucking frustrating. I do want to see this real fast since we're on the military.
Memorial Day weekend,
we're on the military section.
The men and women who gave their lives in service to this country and reflects on the sacrifice carried by Gold Star families across America.
By the way,
we want to welcome.
If you don't know about American Sniper, military service member, honored by pretty much every American household. He was pretty racist in his book. The movie glorifies a lot of what he did, but he was pretty fucking racist in his book. And he's not a great guy. He was definitely a Republican.
Military family advocate Taya Kyle, the founder of the Taya and Chris Kyle Foundation and widow of...
And the fact that she's speaking to Fox News, a organization that is repeatedly made fun of dead military service members, is a complete betrayal of her husband. That's what it is.
U.S. Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. Taya, thank you so much for being with us. On this Memorial Day weekend, I just want to ask, what message do you have for Gold Star families? What gives you hope about the nation that Chris fought for?
Yeah, I think that there's always...
The nation that Chris fought for, even though in his book he said he realized that he wasn't fighting for American soil.
Always hope, because I think that the...
I've read American Sniper twice now, because it's always a good... I tend to read books like that sometimes to know where the opposition stands, because he would be pro-Trump.
Pendulum always swings. I mean, sometimes when we see things that are not going well, we get in a panic state. But I believe that the American people will always correct, because you push us too far and then we start to come back to center. That's my hope anyway.
Your husband has been in the news lately, your late husband, after Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner suggested that he, in his role as a legendary American sniper, shot innocent civilians in Iraq to inflict...
He did. This is a known fact.
His kill numbers. This is what Graham Plattner said.
His stories about how many people he was shooting certainly...
Yeah, his story is, Graham Plattner saying here, I should have brought that up, but yeah, his story is glorifying how many people he murdered.
With the behavior I witnessed and people I knew witnessed down at the Gov Center, which is it's relatively easy to get high numbers like that if you're a little less discriminating, your fire, than say a more professional unit would be.
What went through your mind when you heard this?
Oh, I mean, to me, it's just like nothing says I want attention more than disparaging a national hero who's also dead. It's just, it's transparent, it's cowardly, it's lowbrow to lie about somebody else, right? And it distracts from what you've probably said. And in this case, I think some things that he has said. And it's this cheap political trick to say, you know, I haven't done a whole lot, so let me attach my name to somebody who.
I haven't done a whole lot. I haven't killed 190 Afghani citizens who are defending their home country.
Who's beloved, and if nothing else, I'll get
or
out
Iraqi
in the news,
citizens.
and that's working
Sorry.
for him to get that notoriety. But to me, it shows a total inability to lead with character. So for me, he would be out of the running immediately.
He's also given some inconsistent statements about his own military service. He said in 2020 on Reddit that he joined the Marines because he, quote, wanted to have an adventure and kill some people. More recently, he blamed Susan Collins for sending him to Iraq via a vote. You know, Memorial Day weekend is already difficult for Gold Star families.
Yeah, I think pretty much 99% of the military, or not 90, but like 50% of military service members are going in for the money, like they're getting that bag, and then a bunch of them are going into the military because, and I had conversations with people like this in high school. They're like, I want to go into the military to shoot and kill people.
When you see commentary like this from a public figure, someone who wants to go into elected office, does it make it harder?
Yeah, and you know what? I think my family and I, my kids and I, we'd love to get on here and say it doesn't matter when people say things like that, and we're over it, and we understand that it's just these cheap political tricks. But the truth is, it does hurt. You know, my kids are 21 and 20; they're grown adults, and I wish I could tell you that it doesn't hurt, but it does. And something like this, where it's so obvious to us that he didn't know him, that he's making things up, that it is the polar opposite of what Chris said and did.
Have you read your husband's own book?
It cheapens it. I can't imagine anyone voting.
In his book, there are multiple statements implying that he really wants to shoot brown people.
Somebody like that. I feel like it's so obvious, and you would hope that people do their research and see the things that he said online.
Mm-hmm. I just want to end with this. What do you want Americans to understand broadly about the sacrifices that military families make this Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, you know, I was looking at some numbers recently, and 7,000 military members have died in combat since 9/11. 30,000 have died by.
Fucking man, people that aren't in the U.S., you don't get how frustrating it is to hear constantly how frequently 9/11's brought up. It does piss me off. Oh,
suicide, and half of those are intimate partner relationship problems are in the mix. I'm not blaming the marriage, but I know that the marriage needs to be served. And so our answer is the Taya and Chris Kyle Foundation, where we serve those military marriages. And it's our answer to remember the sacrifice well and prevent more sacrifice.
Taya, Kyle, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all.
Fuck you. I'm sorry. Fuck you. You're betraying your nation. You're not actively calling out the Trump administration for all the evil and shit they do. I don't know. I have zero sympathy for her. Like, genuinely. I don't have sympathy for people who don't fight for a better world. And she doesn't. She doesn't give a fuck. Why would she? She gets so much money from this. And unfortunately, I think that influences a lot of what she does and what she says. It's the money that she gets from interviews like that. Like, Vox News definitely paid her a fuck ton of money for that interview. We have to stop saying being in the military or even being like a police officer is like a qualifying trait for an elected official, because it's not for me. It honestly pushes me away from elected officials more often than anything. Even ones on the left, like Graham Plattner. Like, I'm not a fan that he was in the military.